Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Do your patients know what presbyopia is?
There are people who are afraid of the press.
Have you talked to your patients about multifocal contact lenses?
I've heard the bifocal, but not multifocal.
Exactly, not multifocal.
Do you need help with your multifocal strategy? Learn more at the conclusion of this episode. With more screen usage and indoor time, myopia, also known as nearsightedness, is increasing and getting worse in children. Now, certified eye doctors can prescribe MySight One Day, the first and only FDA-approved soft contact lens to slow myopia progression in age-appropriate children. Visit CooperVision.com to find a Brilliant Futures certified eye doctor near you. Hi, this is Dr. Kerry Gelb, host of Open Your Eyes. I'd like to wish our friends and family and loyal viewers a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and a very happy New Year's Day. I especially would like to thank our sponsors, MacuHealth, CooperVision, and Alcon, who make the Open Your Eyes podcast possible. We want to take this opportunity to share with our viewers the Open Your Eyes documentary. We hope you enjoy it, and we look forward to bringing you more great, informative interviews in the coming year.
A young lady being tested for a new pair of glasses. First, her eyes are checked to determine what her vision is with her old glasses. And after that, the glasses will be removed to determine loss of vision. This is an experience millions of persons undergo every couple of years, for comparatively few of us have anything approaching 20/20 vision.
There is no doubt that losing eyesight is the #1 fear among people around the world. Not only are the eyes the portal to our soul, they are our windows to the secrets of our hidden health. I've been practicing optometry for over 30 years, and our optometric technology has vastly improved, allowing optometrists to diagnose disease much sooner. The optometrists can now see the earliest effects of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease in the eyes of our patients, and we will soon become the first doctors to determine who is at risk for the new epidemic, Alzheimer's. I wanted to see what our profession could do, since we have a front row seat to the window of health. My journey took me to many experts in many places, and perhaps the last place I thought I would end up finding answers was looking into the eyes of centenarians in remote parts of Costa Rica. I had come to Costa Rica to meet up with the self-proclaimed myopia maniac, Dr. Javier Prada Lopez. Before visiting the kids of Costa Rica to evaluate the growing epidemic of myopia, we joined Dr. Gaston Laporte and Jorge Vindas, a field researcher specializing in the life of centenarians. Our first stop was Maria Trinidad. She's 103, and cataracts have completely robbed her vision.
¿Y cómo está su vista?
Ya casi no veo. Yo veo mucho pasar allá, pero no distingo.
Muchos centenarios que no usan ningún medicamento. Y es como muy común eso. En promedio.
And you can see how deep is that cataract. You see it?
Because there's such little macular degeneration with these people, if we take out her cataract, is there a good chance she'll see well?
Yes, very good chance.
Maria and the other centenarians I met were all over 100. Except for their cataracts, their eyes and overall health was really amazing. I couldn't help but wonder what this said about the people I see in the States, whose eyes, health, and bodies were in far worse shape, despite being decades younger. I wanted to know how and why our society accepted chronic and systemic diseases as some new normal, that being not sick meant being healthy. Coming from the United States and examining many patients, it's really very interesting to see a man 100 years old who to be in such fantastic shape, but his eyes also to be in fantastic shape as well. I mean, he does have cataracts, but to show no signs of macular degeneration, the front of his eye looks very, very good. It's very impressive.
Yeah, I think he's unique, and all of this kind are unique, and we have to study more to see what is happening with them.
I had come to realize the importance of vision at a very early age. But it wasn't because I wanted to be an eye doctor when I was younger. It's not what a kid from Spring Valley, New York, dreams of being. I certainly didn't. Always wanted to be the center fielder for the New York Yankees.
Playing center field for the New York Yankees, Carry Go.
Early on in high school, I was having a lot of trouble with my hitting. I bought this book on sports vision and hitting. I was exercising my eyes from looking at one point to another. It's called a predictive saccade, and it was very effective. My final year of high school, I batted .300. We won the high school championship, and I got the winning hit. But when I went to college, being 5'9", my baseball dreams died there. So I decided to become an eye doctor and help people with their vision so they could be better at hitting. Setting up shop in New Jersey, I built my practice and was fortunate to get the latest in eye care technology. It allowed me to see the smallest blood vessels. I could see things that were happening that no other doctor, heart specialist, or neurologist could see. The biggest oh wow that the public doesn't realize about going to the eye doctor is that the eye is so complicated and that so many different diseases actually manifest in the eye. The eye is actually the window to the health of the body. The back of the eye is the only place in the body that you could actually see the blood vessels. The blood vessels in the eye could tell us about many systemic diseases, such as hypertension or diabetes. What the public doesn't realize is that there are almost 300 diseases that actually manifest in the eye, and that the eye can be the first place that those diseases can be diagnosed. In my office, I have an instrument that does retinal imaging, which means that it takes pictures of the back of the eye.
A lot of us in the eye world think about the eye as the canary of the body. There is no place richer in cardiovascular or heart biomarkers than the eye. There are a whole host of technologies that will give us all kinds of information about your health. So it's light literally shined into the pupil of the eye that highlights these itty-bitty little changes that I even challenge artificial intelligence to find, which I'm sure it will. You can see these little tiny outpouchings at their very earliest stages.
With all this new technology, I decided to check my own eyes. I was shocked at what I found. I found microaneurysms in my eye. When I saw that in my eye, I said to myself, holy cow, I'm at risk for a cardiovascular event. I'm at risk for a stroke. I'm at risk for cancer. I'm at risk for getting diabetes. I decided to do a blood test on myself. Normal 2-hour insulin is about 40. And mine was 170. I said, Eureka, that's why I have the microaneurysms. I was startled because I worked out and ate what I thought was healthy. As much as I thought I knew, I would come to realize I knew very little. Surprisingly, one of the things they don't teach you in optometry or medical school is nutrition, or preventative medicine for that matter, or what being healthy really means. I was so interested in this topic, I started to read books, attended seminars, watched films, and then turned to the emerging experts on the internet. Once you get past all the cat and dog videos, you can really find some good information there. I learned about nutrition, integrative medicine, and even fasting. I still had many questions, so that's when I decided to do a crazy thing and actually visit these experts. I realized that spending substantial time with each person was the right prescription to help me understand the root cause of our diseases and what approach we could take to halt them and in some cases even reverse them. My first stop was in Florida, where I met up with Dr. Derek De Silva, who invited me for a weekend.
Hey there.
How you doing? Good to see you, Dr.
How are you?
De Silva.
Good to see you too.
Good to see you.
Wonderful.
Great to see you.
This is wonderful what you're doing.
This is great. Yeah, I'm so happy that you're participating.
And the optometrist, in my opinion, is one of the best kept secrets. You know what? You guys, you can't be a secret anymore. You got to get out there, and you've got to let people know that I'm looking at the inside of your eyes with a microscope, and I'm seeing disease, because this disease is here, it's also going to be here.
I ran across a rather strange health-related video. It was by a young kid who was trying to figure out what being healthy meant, and it was very entertaining.
The only thing open was a 7-Eleven down the street, so I definitely had some disgusting food.
I haven't been sleeping much.
That's terrible.
It's somewhere in the gut here. So, my not-so-fun fact for you guys is, did you know that we are the first generation in recorded human history that has a shorter lifespan than our parents?
Is this for the US or is this globally?
This is specifically for the US, which
doesn't apply to me.
He's good.
Even though Chris's video was lighthearted, what he was talking about was no joke. The stats didn't lie, and life expectancy had dropped. Millennials were projected to be the first generation in history to not outlive the generation before them. I called him up and found out he lived nearby. He told me he had poor eyesight and was worried about his health, so I invited him to my office. What seems to be the problem with your vision?
I don't see very well.
Even lower. All right, so let's put those drops in your eyes. So let's go deep into the eye using this technology to look at different layers of your eye. And it so happens with you can see these little swollen spots right over here. Okay, those are little microaneurysms in your eye. So that shows that you may have insulin resistance. I explained to Chris that microaneurysms were tiny swellings in the side of blood vessels. These were indicative of early warning signs of insulin resistance, a condition that we are learning is the root cause of many diseases and is preventable and surprisingly reversible, a condition we can now identify with a simple eye exam. So we need you to get a blood test. I was intrigued by Chris's youth, knowledge, and passion for health. It turned out he was not only a podcast host, he was a fledgling comedian and the son of perhaps the world's most quoted living man. Believe it or not, he's someone most of us have never heard of. Author and motivational speaker, Steve Maraboli.
I was amazed that Dr. Gelb was able to diagnose my current condition and potential problems in a comprehensive eye exam. I wanted to know more, but first I had to get poked.
Apparently my blood clots really fast.
Chris, come on in.
After Dr. Gelb diagnosed me with myopia, or nearsightedness for the common person, he suggested that I see Dr. Jeffrey Gold, a cardiologist who believes in not just treating the symptoms, but finding the root cause. I had no idea what was going on inside my body, but I needed to find out. It turned out I had high fibrinogen and elevated C-reactive protein, which indicated that all-American badass inflammation was lurking inside of me.
If the levels remain elevated, there are some things that we could do to mitigate your risk. One of the things that we like to do is just to generally reduce inflammation in the body, whether that's cutting back on smoking or alcohol use, okay? General healthy lifestyle, eating a diet with whole foods. We want you to exercise routinely. We want to make sure you get restorative sleep. And we want you to reduce your stress levels the best way you possibly can. So these are all natural ways that we could reduce inflammation in the body.
Even though these conditions were not common for someone my age, I was glad Dr. Gold's approach did not include medication. And for the moment, it was just lifestyle adjustment therapy.
Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Absolutely. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
This is a glutathione shake.
Now that I had my new lifestyle in place and a fresh pair of specs, I really wanted to know why, and as I say on my show, I wanted someone to show me how to live. Dr. Gelb told me he just started filming a documentary, this documentary. I asked if I could help, so as you can tell by my voiceover, he loved the idea. While this may not go down as one of the great buddy movies of all time, Dr. Gelb, or Carrie and I, were taking our own roads less traveled and going in search of why we were failing at living healthy. I wanted to explore the philosophical, sociological, and psychological reasons my generation was being compromised. And of course, Carrie was a man of science, so he headed in that direction. I guess he was the straight man and I was the funny guy, and truly offered a perspective where my OD could not go. So one thing I do as part of my podcast and stand-up is interview some experts who can give me insight into living healthy.
Hello and welcome to a new and ancient story. This is Charles Eisenstein. We explore things like technology, spirituality, agriculture, healing, economics, politics, ecology, relationships, education. I mean, pretty much everything that is undergoing a transition today.
So I headed out to Pennsylvania to talk to one of my favorites, world-renowned author Charles Eisenstein, to get the story on why my generation was, for all purposes, devolving.
Each generation was supposed to be healthier than the last one. Lifespan was supposed to be increasing. We were supposed to be in this paradise by now.
You'll get the results on the relativity reactor. Okay.
Instead of getting healthier and healthier, it seems to have gone the opposite way. New diseases that weren't even heard of in the 1960s are prevalent today. Autoimmune diseases, things like Lyme disease. Meanwhile, cancer, heart disease, they're still going strong. I would say, as far as I know, not a single major disease has been conquered since the 1970s. And I think a lot of people are beginning to question the whole story.
So I pulled up the CDC's website to get their definition on chronic disease, and it's pretty interesting. It says here, chronic diseases are non-communicable illnesses that are prolonged in duration, do not resolve spontaneously, and are rarely cured completely. They are the leading cause of death and disability in the United States. They cause 7 out of 10 deaths each year and are among the most preventable and treatable of all health problems. Those figures are staggering. 7 out of 10 deaths a year are caused by, and they say this, the most preventable and treatable of all health problems.
Something I learned from the functional and integrative medicine approaches was to not only treat the symptom, but to get to the root cause of the disease. For example, why had obesity, diabetes, and the growing Alzheimer's epidemic skyrocketed? Before I journeyed toward solutions, I needed to know how we got to this point as a society. And to do that, I needed to go back to the future when it all started to go wrong.
There appears to be growing concern among scientists as to the possibility of dangerous long-range side effects from the widespread use of DDT and other pesticides. Have you considered asking the Department of Agriculture or the Public Health Service to take a closer look at this?
Yes, and I know that they already are. I think particularly, of course, since Ms. Carson's book, but they are examining the matter.
This is one of the nation's bestsellers, and Silent Spring has been called the most controversial book of the year.
Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, not only first alerted us to the dangers of chemical pesticides, but created the awareness of how our biology interconnects with ecological systems.
Here at the Dow Chemical Company in Midland, Michigan, revolutionary chemical killers are being produced to help rid us of these costly pests.
I met up with journalist and author Carrie Gillam, whose book Whitewash follows in Rachel Carson's footsteps, warning us about the dangers of the latest miracle chemical, glyphosate, that's being sprayed on our food. In some ways, things haven't changed at all in more than 50 years.
DDT was considered this magical, miracle, chemical that was going to save humanity, and wipe out mosquitoes and protect us from malaria. And there were all sorts of jingles and slogans and advertising about how wonderful, this pesticide was.
Armed with large quantities of the DDT insecticide. A former Army officer who handled the same sort of job on Okinawa and in Korea is in charge of the project. No corner of the area escapes the DDT spray.
Remember the name,
Destroy DDT. It spells certain death to all insects I've mentioned so far, and others too.
There must be a catch to it. Maybe Pestroy hurts humans, too.
No, sir. It harms only us, the citizens of Bucknam.
And of course, Rachel Carson warned us about the unintended consequences and the risks.
Now, we know from experiments on animals that many of these chemicals accumulate in body tissues. We know that some are liver poisons, others are nerve poisons, and for still others, we have evidence that they produce mutations.
And we see the same thing with glyphosate today. It was heralded as a miracle invention, a novel herbicide. And people have used it and championed it. And Monsanto and the other companies will tell you we need it to feed the world. But we're finding out that's not true.
I went to California to meet activist Jeffrey Smith to further understand the current chemical impact on our bodies.
Monsanto makes Roundup-ready soy, corn, cotton, canola, sugar beets, and alfalfa, all of which can be sprayed with Roundup herbicide and not kill the crops, but just kill all the weeds around it. But then the Roundup, or its glyphosate active ingredient and other stuff, gets absorbed into the crop and into the food we eat. Now, the biotech industry said, there's no problems, but no one is looking. If you actually correlate the use of GMO soy and corn, the number of acres, or the amount of glyphosate-based herbicides on those acres, it actually correlates, rises in parallel, with more than 30 diseases. They found that the animals that were exposed to glyphosate were developing cataracts at a high level. And there was a sentence in a correspondence by one of the scientists who basically acknowledged that the cataracts was a problem as a result of the glyphosate. Food is not supposed to have side effects. Drugs can, but food can't.
Farm workers, landscapers, and homeowners who've been exposed to the weed killer Roundup may be at risk for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or other cancers of the blood.
The Roundup-ready corn was later discovered to have high levels of cadaverine and putrescine, horrible names, for good reason. They create the foul smell of rotting dead bodies. So that's in the Roundup-ready corn, but those two compounds also link to allergic reactions and cancer.
Rachel Carson has been vilified by the agrochemical industry and still is to this day, but her work was really instrumental in formulating the Environmental Protection Agency and in creating the modern-day environmental movement, really.
Unless we do bring these chemicals under better control, we are certainly headed for disaster.
We paid attention to her at the time, and we endeavored to try to protect our environment, but I think we've lost our way now. I think we're out of balance and we've forgotten her message.
Long before there were artificial delicacies, gooey yummies, crunchy munchy snackables, the food pyramid was fresh, pure, natural. Marigolds bloomed, clean water flowed, and all healthy foods lived in harmony under the watchful eye of Quetzalcoatl. Buenos dias, Quetzalcoatl.
Huh?
I'm Dustin the Mahar. To the food processor with you. I decide what's healthy now.
Quetzalcoatl! Our kingdom!
It'll all be okay, Green.
But the threats from pesticides and GMOs aren't the only things we need to worry about when it comes to what we eat. The food itself is also a potential problem. Much of this can be traced back to a well-intentioned but ultimately misguided attempt in 1977 by creating a national food health standard by Senator George McGovern. I reached out to Dr. Ted Naiman to fill me in on some of the history with how our diets got so messed up as a byproduct of good intentions. He suggested we meet up at the Twisted Horn Ranch in Petaluma, California, where the cattle is grass-fed and grass-finished.
Well, I really think things started to go the wrong direction for us back in the late 70s with the McGovern report, and we decided that eating saturated fat and cholesterol were bad for some reason, and that really skewed our dietary intake towards carbohydrates in a ridiculous fashion. So everyone's eating a 50 or 60% carbohydrate diet now, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It's really not a human species appropriate diet, in my opinion.
I have pleaded in my report and will plead again orally here for more research on the problem before we make announcements to the American public.
Well, I would only argue that senators don't have the luxury that a research scientist does of waiting until every last shred of evidence is in.
The McGovern Committee's report was written by a young staff member who happened to be a vegetarian and had no background in medicine or health research. The committee recommended a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet for everyone and offered some ideas that could only spring from the mind of a politician.
But Senator Schweiker of Pennsylvania suggested that instead of discrediting the committee's report, the eggmen should be out developing hens that would lay low-cholesterol eggs.
One of my favorite doctors I had followed the past few years on the web was Dr. Jason Funk. He was kind enough to meet me in Toronto to further discuss the wrong road we were led down.
The McGovern report was this sort of government committee that tried to get to the bottom of it, but the science had not been settled. So people were getting a lot of heart attacks, and one group thought it was all due to the dietary fat, and one group thought maybe it's all the sugar and the carbohydrates. Eventually, McGovern was influenced more by the kind of anti-fat message, so he decided that that was really the cause. And it wasn't through science, it was sort of this kind of political machinery that all of a sudden decided that this is the right answer, that everybody should eat a low-fat diet. That gave us the sort of food pyramid, the foods that you're supposed to eat every single day. There's bread, rice, potatoes, polenta and stuff, which is really funny when you look back because everybody sort of knows that if you eat white bread every day, you're gonna gain weight. But at the time, they didn't worry so much about the weight. Remember, there was no obesity epidemic, there was no type 2 diabetes epidemic, and people were worried more about heart disease. So they thought, well, you know, we are not eating fat, so we're not gonna clog our arteries. What happened then, of course, was that obesity started to rise and really has not stopped since then.
Even though I was an athlete most of my life, I had firsthand experience with the challenges of being fit. While building up my practice, I let myself go and I started having health issues. The surprising thing was, technically, I was eating a healthy diet, the standard American diet. Dr. Fung and Saya Ji, founder of GreedMed Info, who is a priceless source of collected knowledge, further enlightened me why the warning signs displayed in the eye images that I captured of myself and many of my patients were byproducts of an accumulation of misinformation.
One of the things that kind of came out of this whole dietary fat thing is that all of a sudden, obesity must be also related to fat, even though nobody had ever thought that before. Once you start vilifying dietary fat for the heart disease, people say, well, it must cause obesity too. Then they came up with this whole calories thing to say, well, why is fat so bad? And it's because, well, it's calorically dense. So there's this whole idea that eating fat makes you fat.
Calories have been one of the biggest challenges because when it comes to fat, fat has more calorie, per gram than carbohydrate, for example, or protein. So it was considered not as good if you were overweight. More calories, more weight. But that's just not how it works. Because our body is composed primarily of not just water, of course, but fat and then also protein. Carbohydrate isn't even really a big part of what we are.
One of the main problems was that they were including trans fats in this whole sort of mess of fats. Now, trans fats are artificial fats. They take polyunsaturated fats, they hydrogenate them. Turns out they were inflammatory and they cause a lot of heart disease. So that eventually came to light somewhere in the last kind of 12, 15 years that these trans fats were really, really bad for us. People started noticing that the Mediterranean diet was really a very healthy diet. People did great on it. And this was not a low-fat diet. They were eating olive oil, they were eating avocados, they were eating nuts, oily fish. Eventually in the 2000s, you got this term, the healthy fats. So nuts are very highly correlated to better health, olive oil, avocados.
In the 1960s, egg was nature's most perfect food. In the 70s and 80s and 90s, it was cholesterol, heart disease on a plate. Now it's coming back to, oh, actually, it's the good kind of cholesterol and yada, 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 and eggs are good for you after all. And we've been wrong this whole time.
What is going on that they don't like
I'm down with the eggs. Am I HDL? Am I LDL?
Same thing with saturated fat. Sugar used to be considered this fairly harmless substance, and now we realize that it's the author of many of our maladies. I mean, the experts keep changing their minds. So that's another factor that's pushing us toward reclaiming sovereignty over our health.
You know, medicine's changed a lot because we live in a time where the paradigms are shifting. So if you look at 20th century medicine, what killed people in the 10s and 20s and 30s and 40s was infection. But now we get to the 21st century, and they're not infectious diseases. They're all chronic metabolic diseases.
The Western diet is technically a lethal disease vector. So our body, our DNA, our epigenome, our microbiome, for millions of years, had no experience consuming the types of foods we consume today.
There's no question that the reason we're seeing so much diabetes today, that we're seeing so much obesity today, is because we've taken the fats out of the diet because these geniuses said that fat was killing us. So what did they do? To make food sweeter, they added sugar. The sugar that was added is producing and causing the inflammation and producing and causing the disease. And it isn't just diabetes. It's heart disease, it's cancer, it's all of those diseases.
The big evils for me are refined carbohydrates like sugar and flour and industrial seed oils like vegetable oil. And this is all driven by profits and marketing and advertising. And now 60% of American calories come from sugar, flour, or oil. It's a complete disaster.
And you look back on this entire kind of fiasco, and you really say it was really a matter of hubris, right? We thought that we could be smarter than Mother Nature. Humans have been eating meat and eggs and dairy for thousands of years. If it was gonna kill us, it would have killed us several thousand years ago. We are adapted to eat these sort of natural foods. Once you start tampering with it, once you start taking corn and processing the hell out of it so you get corn oil, and then start bubbling hydrogen in it so you get hydrogenated corn oil, now you've got a problem because our bodies are not adapted to it.
I'd say avocado is probably one of the most interesting examples of a food that was once vilified that now has been coronated by nutritional science.
MacuHealth, your science-born and tested solutions for visual performance, macular degeneration, and dry eye syndrome. New products coming soon. Embrace the science.
Where are we going, Ripe?
I don't know anymore. I like flyers. You can have them. Flyers for all.
Ripe? Ripe! They know nothing. They don't even know we're a fruit.
I'm coming to join you. Quetzalcoatl.
Ripe! Don't give up hope.
After seeing the images and understanding the warning signs, I had taken control of my health. I guess I had to change the sad diet to the glad diet.
So now I'm going to check myself for the first time in 2 years. All right, let's see how I did. Here's my right eye, and it actually looks pretty good. There's my left eye, not too bad if I say so myself. It's actually improved. Typically these do not improve the microaneurysms, and I still have some, but they definitely have improved with the change of my lifestyle. So it's very unusual that they've improved. So it actually makes me feel pretty good about that changing things. So I'm really very happy about it, that I have much less microaneurysms. That shows that my insulin resistance is improving.
I wanted to share what I learned with my peers and patients and developed a 10-point plan for my patients to follow. It was clear we were all paying the price for decades of misguidance and toxicity. I learned from Doctors Fung, Naiman, and De Silva that not only were many diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and even Alzheimer's preventable, they were also reversible through proper and positive lifestyle adjustments.
The paradigm is not, you have a disease, you come see me as a doctor, I give you a pill, you're better. The paradigm is, you have a problem, it's chronic, it's related to lifestyle and diet, so fix your lifestyle and diet.
Now I wanted to focus on further helping my patients by using the technology and growing understanding of what information the eye revealed about our health, and if necessary, be able to advise them on which healthcare professionals they should consult. I started doing blood tests on these patients. So I took the next 19 patients who had these microaneurysms, and I did blood tests on them. And lo and behold, 18 of 19 of them had elevated either fasting insulin or 2-hour insulin. So at that moment, I knew that these people were at risk for diabetes, and they were insulin resistant. And when you're insulin resistant, not only are you at risk for diabetes, but you're at risk for many other different types of diseases, such as dementia, or Alzheimer's, or diabetes, and cancer. I had reached out to one of my research peers, Dr. Stuart Richer, to help me conduct a formal study to conclusively verify that the outpouchings I had found were indeed linked to insulin resistance and conveyed much earlier warning signs of disease. We imaged 80 optometrists and conducted correlating blood tests. Our tests and study were conclusive, and the findings were published in the Diabesity Journal and later featured in Optometry Times. It seemed that now optometrists were on the cutting edge of high-tech testing, and by using these new tools to examine the eye, we could find the beginnings of many preventable diseases before any other test could.
Completely non-invasively, you could screen thousands of people, not just for their eye health, but for their whole body health. If you can identify high-risk people and then treat them correctly, well, that's where we're going to save lives. That puts you at the very tip of preventative medicine.
I met with many other optometrists and PhDs who are forging new ground in expanding the scope of our profession. While we were increasingly concerned with obesity, diabetes, and Alzheimer's, one traditional eye condition was becoming much more prevalent, growing into a plague, affecting our youth and becoming our #1 problem.
Myopia. Myopia.
Myopia.
Myopia.
Myopia.
Myopic children.
Myopia.
Myopia.
Myopia is nearsightedness.
Myopia. Myopia. 5 myopia billion myopic myopes in the world. Myopic. Myopia. Myopic. Half of the population
Myopia.
in 2050
Myopia
will be myopic.
Myopia was skyrocketing and exploding across the globe.
When light from an object enters our eyes, our eye lens bends it such that the image is formed on the retina. However, in some people, this image is formed before the retina. Such defect is called nearsightedness or myopia. A person with myopia cannot see distant objects clearly.
I went to Costa Rica with my son Brady and my wife Erica, who would be able to translate.
You eat this?
Yes. It has a...
I went to visit with Dr. Javier Prada, who spent a decade studying the causes of myopia.
He's been told by the World Health Authorities, the World Health Organization, that half of the population in 2050 will be myopic in the world, which means you will have a huge blind population.
Mucho gusto. ¿Cómo se llama?
Javier and his team took us to visit an elementary school in one of the rural areas of Nicoya in the Guanacaste province.
In Costa Rica, the myopia in urban areas are around 40%, and in rural areas is around between 10 to 15%. And you say, wow, it's 4 times. Yes, it is 4 times. And mainly is due to the technology.
The findings were absolutely consistent with his studies showing less than 10% of the children were myopic. It is no mystery that the absence of laptops, tablets, and phones, and the abundance of outdoor activity preserve these children's healthy eyes.
We born designed to look at 35 centimeters, but today the distance used by young people to see near things is around 20 to 25 centimeters. If a child does not have the opportunity to see, they cannot develop themselves, they will keep on poverty, and they may become a social problem in the future. So a children that sees well, can study well, feels well, and through vision, we can improve their lives. That's our mission.
During my IR study, I had met with Dr. Ron Rosedale, an expert on insulin resistance. One of the more eye-opening pieces of information he discussed was that the centenarians have no signs of insulin resistance and almost no chronic disease. And with the assistance of Dr. Prada and his Vision Optica team, we arranged to visit a few of them to see the health of their eyes and what secrets to longevity they could share.
And you can see how deep is that cataract. You see it? These people usually is blind through the cataract, but not the...
So there's a very good chance if she has cataract surgery that she would see very well and be able to see her grandchildren and great-grandchildren and all her chickens.
Bueno, pero va a quedar viendo muy bien. Vamos a tratar de coordinar con el hospital de Nicoya para que en algún momento y su familia le puedan hacer esas cirugías de catarata en los 2 ojos.
Sí.
I just told her that she will see very good, has high probabilities of seeing very good. If she has cataract, she had cataract surgery, and we will try to coordinate with the hospital to have her for surgery. And she also, she will see the chicken, the turkey, the rourke, all the animals in the surroundings, and maybe a boyfriend. So she said that she's a little old for that.
Jorge Vindas is a field researcher in Costa Rica that has studied, supported, and assisted the centenarians for more than 15 years. Jorge also verified all their ages and arranged and accompanied us on all our visits in the Nicoya region. The question we all wanted to know was how and why these people age so gracefully.
Ese apoyo tan grande de la familia y ese cariño y el respeto y el amor que le dan y el cuidado, esa parte para mí es el primer factor. El segundo sería la espiritualidad y la fuerte fe que ellos tienen para enfrentar la vida y así lo han hecho históricamente. Y de tercero sería la alimentación. Ellos se comían lo que la tierra producía, sin químicos, y sembraban mucho de lo que se comían. El arroz, frijoles, maíz. Después el ejercicio físico, el estarse moviendo siempre, hombres y mujeres. Y como número 5 es el estilo de vida, es una vida tranquila. Para mí eso es súper importante. Tal vez los primeros 4 factores hacen que el quinto, y ellos tienen ganas de levantarse mañana.
Dr. Laporte wanted to help Maria, Pablo, and Pachito, and decided he would perform cataract surgery and was going to order all the necessary pre-op tests. We were excited to hopefully restore their vision that seemed to be their only aging issue. Their overall health and vitality and their sense of one with the land and community was unlike anything I had seen back home.
But today people are disconnected. They are disconnected from community. They're disconnected from nature. Nature becomes, at best, for many people, a spectacle, something nice to look at or to walk in. But there's not that day-to-day, hands-on connection where you can actually feel and see that the health of the beings around you influences your own health.
Grab back, get your passport. All fresh fruits are subject to inspection and interrogation. GMOs, use the expedited queue, please. Prescriptions and artificial chemicals must remove all metal and liquids over 5 ounces. Fortified foods, just get in line.
Labels out, please.
I have an idea.
Quick, Squirtle, what have they done to you? Fast food right this way. Next. Labels out. Are you a low-calorie food? Closer. Closer, please.
0 calories.
Negative calories, actually, with no nutritional value and 37 unpronounceable ingredients.
You're fresh!
Do you know how to drive this thing?
Nope. Take off.
Shut up.
Take off.
Shut
Take
up.
off. Take
Shut
off.
up.
Take off.
Shut
Take
up.
off. Take
Shut
off.
up.
Take off.
Shut
Take
up.
off.
Before I joined Gaston ringside for the centenarians' cataract surgeries, I flew to Budapest, Hungary, with some fellow optometrists to see the latest in contact lens technology. While there, I met with another myopia maniac, Zsolt Tabasto, who, along with his sister Beata, were both third-generation eye doctors that dated back to the 1920s. Zsolt was a leader in using orthokeratology lenses, which in short means corrective lenses for myopia, and surprisingly, can be used by children as young as 6.
What we are having and very successfully doing it is the orthokeratology. And we need to do it as early as possible to avoid this elongation. In our cases and our practice, we see about 70% success for myopia progression reduction. Orthokeratology, basically, we are flattening the central portion of the cornea, and this flattening is increasing the peripheral thickness of the cornea. We are redistributing the corneal shape with our contact lens. We push a little bit the central portion of the cornea, and it redistributes the fluid of your cornea to the periphery. Basically, it's very interesting because it's even working within hours. It usually takes about a week or week and a half to get the full correction settled.
Here, follow with your eyes. Good. Beautiful. Look up and down. Look right at the light. Myopia was another one on the emerging list of epidemics our kids and the next generation was facing. The condition was not only avoidable, but 100% manageable. But neglected could significantly up our risk for glaucoma, macular degeneration, and cataracts. You did really good. Thank you. At the University of Georgia, I met up with the husband and wife PhD team of Randy Hammond and Lisa Renzi to further discuss their approach to dealing with myopia.
In the history of our species, we can't all have been so nearsighted.
For most of human history, we were seeing at a distance. And you couldn't have been out on the savannah going, is that like a lion? You know, right? So they just eat you and you wouldn't evolve. So now though, when the eye is growing, your signal's right here. So you develop a different length of eye.
We spend an awful lot of time no more than a foot in front of our face, inside while we're doing it. So to the extent that those factors matter, we are not producing normally sighted individuals now. What is starting to happen in a lot of other cultures is the need to take a sight break. In places like, say, Singapore, Taiwan, something like 85–90% of the childhood population is now nearsighted.
Singapore has a population now with about 90% myopia. They had these posters up that said, keep myopia at bay Go outside and play.
Take a sight break. For every so long that you spend doing near work, you should be spending some time actually looking out into the distance in nature, getting a little bit of light exposure that's natural. You can go a long way toward normalizing vision. Normalization of the eye requires ultraviolet light. It requires the ability to look out into great distances and actually train the lens to accommodate. So behavior does play a role in this as well.
Think about that. Your brain's developing too. So if your brain is developing around this kind of signal, that's a real different kind of brain.
So we get to see a couple follow-ups today?
I think we'll see one. I returned to Costa Rica with my colleague, Dr. Richard Holtz, to assist Gaston. In Costa Rica, it takes between 3 and 5 years to be scheduled for surgery. Gaston had already corrected Maria's and Pablo's cataracts, and we were excited to see their progress, even though it would take a few more weeks to accurately see the results and how clear their new eyes were. Their overall health and absence of any disease, and the fact that they were all cleared for surgery was amazing.
So we came to Costa Rica because it's one of the areas in the world where people live over 100 and they don't get the chronic diseases that we get in the West. So we wanted to see what their eyes would be like. We examined people over 100 who had vision problems, and what we found is that their eyes were healthy other than cataracts. She does have cataracts in both eyes. There is a cataract there. He has no vision in this eye. And many of them have had poor vision for many, many years, and they didn't have access to surgical eye care. So we made arrangements with a local eye surgeon to do cataract surgery. Pachita is going to have his cataract surgery today. How does not being able to see make you feel?
Un poquillo mal porque no está uno bien, mejor dicho.
¿Pero cómo se siente? ¿Mal cómo?
Pues que ya uno va mermando en todo y se va conformando como Dios lo manda.
Are you excited to be able to see again?
Exactamente. Si Dios me ha oído más, yo ya veo más tranquilo.
Because you have trouble seeing, does that make you feel old?
Porque ya uno ya no puede hacer sus cosas. Le hace falta para toda la vista.
¿Cómo qué cosas?
Y eso, los zapatos, imagínese usted, no se los puede amarrar porque no ve.
¿Y qué más?
Y todo.
¿Qué todo?
Y...
Cuando anda a caballo, por ejemplo.
Ah, no, porque el caballo lo lleva uno.
When you get your sight back, what are you most excited about seeing?
Mis hijos principalmente, el amigo y ver las hembras, que me encanta ver las hembras, por lo menos verlas.
Cataracts is simply a clouding of the lens in the eye and is mostly seen in older people. In the United States, the majority of the people over 80 have them.
Eso. Métese un poco, sube el pie.
¿Y esto cuándo se quita?
So you're going to see well in about 2 to 4 weeks.
He's wondering when the patch comes out.
Tomorrow.
Mañana, Panchito. Mañana se le quita el parche ese.
Because of their age, Pachito's, Maria's, and Pablo's recovery would take longer than usual. Since their lives were mostly lived outdoors and absent from technology, we were curious if any of them had myopia. Once they fully recovered, Gaston would be able to give them an eye exam. We saw with our own eyes everything Jorge had enlightened us to about the reasons they age so gracefully. Their connection to nature, family, and real food was so apparent. Each one was equally filled with faith and a sense of peace and purposeful life. It took me decades to get to the point of understanding the wrong road we lived on and subsequently designing a 10-point plan that, for the most part, these people lived for a century.
Háblele, Pachito, háblele. Siga ahí.
Technology and the indoor life not only put us at high risk for nearsightedness and its consequential effects, we were learning that it was far more destructive to our overall health.
The migration of life indoors, like we have controlled indoor environments. Does that actually make people healthier though? I think that it's actually the opposite. That the more accustomed we get to a highly controlled environment, the less robust we become, the less able we become to meet challenges and endure changing external conditions. It starts as, yeah, of course I'd like a little air conditioning now, but we become dependent on it. We become dependent on a mechanized world. We become dependent on automobiles. We become less in touch with our bodies and our physical beingness and our capacities. And as that proceeds, we need more and more technological aid and more control over the environment to be healthy or even to be comfortable. And I think that this trend is reaching its extreme today, where we can't hold it up any longer.
I'm lost in a new place. Finally landed in Fort Myers. It's gonna be an awesome day. Since Carrie didn't buy me a plane ticket to Costa Rica,
Where's the elevator?
I talked him into taking me along to Naples, Florida to meet Susan Somerton, an optometrist who is on the board of the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society. She invited me for some morning yoga on the beach and to enlighten me about the benefits of sunlight and the dangers of artificial light that is throwing my generation totally off balance.
All right, we'll come to the front of our mat.
All right.
We ground our feet nice into the earth there, and we'll take a big deep breath and reach up over our head, look at those skies, and then fold down all the way forward towards...
All the way down.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that.
As far as you can go. So one of my favorite things to do is right here exactly what we're doing. It's morning, to come out early morning, preferably before 9, depending on the area you live in, and expose yourself to this morning sun. And that tells our body, wake up. Unfortunately, with your generation, everything has become technology, and technology has brought us inside. And it's brought us inside basically like we're living in caves all the time. You're staring at the computer, you're staring at your phone, you're staring at what we call blue lights. Every time you're looking at that screen, it's the equivalent of noon in the sky, which knocks off our whole circadian rhythm and the release of what we call the melatonin.
Tell me about circadian rhythms. I've heard about it. I don't know what it is, though.
So circadian rhythms is basically your own sleep-wake cycle, how our body likes to operate, likes to go through repair and regeneration, and likes to be awake at certain times of day, and it basically follows the sun. And our eyes tells us to when to wake up with the blue light or go to sleep without blue light. Traditionally, our eye was just a camera, but now science is telling us it's a window into our health, and it's also a clock that runs our bodies. So when we look at the eye, we know it can control how we sleep, how we wake.
After talking to Dr. Somerton, I found myself at a Vision Expo, where I had a chat with a woman who continued the conversation I was having about blue light.
Now, in our artificially lit world, the blue light that is coming off of our devices, it sends a trigger to our brain to stop producing melatonin. But melatonin helps us to fall asleep and stay asleep. Blue light at night from your device, it will suppress up to 53% of your melatonin production. Your brain hasn't produced the melatonin that it needs for you to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Well, the reality is, there's no escaping this blue light stuff. It seems that no matter what we do, our eyes are screwed. But I remember what Susan said, maybe we couldn't totally escape the blue light, but we could minimize its effects.
We can help by taking breaks. We have a 20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, you're looking at the screen. You look away for 20 seconds, at least greater than 20 feet. Then we start thinking about what happens with all this screen time. How can we modify that? We can help with our blue light protection glasses. Dr. Jack Cruz is one that has studies, he's a neurologist, generally recommends for every 1 hour that you have screen, you have 15 minutes outside in nature to balance it.
Coincidentally, when Carrie was at a conference in Mexico, he met up with Dr. Jack Cruz, who's a neurosurgeon and has some insight into the relationship between blue light, circadian rhythms, and our health.
Circadian rhythm is everything. It's the basis of biology. When circadian biology is off, we get problems. And it turns out the most common form of the broken circadian mechanism is blue light. We're not talking about blue light in the sun today. Kids are inside using blue light devices. So every time you put a TV on, every time a kid puts an iPhone on, every time they put an iPad on, you're telling your brain that it's solar noon. You have to remember that the children's anterior chamber of the eye is not similar to what your and eye is. And it's much more sensitive to UV and blue light. That means that kids are more sensitive to the blue light hazard. Blue light from any tech device destroys melatonin. Melatonin's destroyed, sleep gets destroyed. Everybody seems to know that sleep affects health. Any light at night, as far as I'm concerned, does this. It ruins complete circadian rhythm. It ruins the eye clock. And you have to make the parents understand that the light that their children are growing up under is like an alien sun in this solar system. And when they begin to understand that we evolved for 4.6 billion years under that light right there, natural sunlight is not something to be afraid of. Because, you know, that's what sets the entire mechanism in the body. If you were to ask me, Jack, what's the single most important thing would be a takeaway for eye health? You can never miss another sunrise the rest of your life.
A few months after Pachito's, Pablo's, and Maria's surgery, the three, along with many other centenarians, were honored by local officials. Jorge presided as one of the hosts of this celebration of life. It was going to be the first time they were all going to see Dr. Laporte with their new eyes, and he was anxious to see them, especially Maria.
Well, I see her really happy. That is the best thing I could see. And her eyes are really clear. There's no secretion. They are wide open. ¿Cómo le va? ¿Cómo está? Gusto saludarla. And she is waving for me to say hi, so she could see me. First time I saw her, she was like an angry old lady. And she was in a room, in the dark side of the room, just wanting to be there until she died. Now she's really happy. She is shiny, she is smiling. Eso! For her family also, it's been a great progress. She's not as dependent as she was. And now she could do some lunch or do things in order she is feeling useful, you know? She is now more alive. The centenarians, in terms of health, are really healthy. They have no chronic disease. The health of the eyes in these centenarians is really good. They are really healthy. They have no retina illness. They have no macular degeneration. They have really good lifestyles.
Though their eyesight was cloudy for many years due to cataracts, their minds were certainly as uncloudy as a perfect blue sky on a summer day. Every centenarian I met was as sharp and lucid as a healthy middle-aged person. There were no signs of what some now call type 3 diabetes, dementia, or Alzheimer's. What most people need to know is that the brain and the eye are connected. They are one and the same. I went to Talbot, Tennessee to meet up with Tom Lewis, who is a neuroscientist and Alzheimer's expert.
The most profound marker along this health disease continuum as we age for future risk for Alzheimer's is biomarkers in the eye, because after all, the eye, particularly the retina, is an embryological outcropping of the brain. So what's happening in the eye is happening in the brain, and it turns out that it's happening in most cases up to 15 years before you start experiencing cognitive declines.
The brain is the most metabolically active tissue. The retina is the most metabolically active tissue in the body. So things that go wrong with your metabolism affect the retina very early on, like diabetes. And so aging of the brain is reflected by aging of the retina.
Alzheimer's is an age-related disease. As our immune system starts declining, and it's highly metabolic tissue, it becomes much more susceptible. It's a neurological condition. It's an inflammatory degenerative process that's happening to neurological tissue. And it's happening in the eye more profoundly and earlier and easier to detect in the eye than it is in the brain.
Once you start experiencing loss, it sort of cascades.
Brains need social encounters, they need novelty, they need good nutrition, they need exercise. So what do we recommend? We recommend that they go out and get some exercise and get that vasculature in shape. We recommend that they improve their diets, that they stop smoking. These are all things that are also should modify risk for Alzheimer's disease as well. So the beautiful thing about the situation is that the treatment is the same no matter what, right? In the world of Alzheimer's disease and central nervous system function, recommending nutrition is a really, really new thing. It's a radical concept for us.
So there's no drug for this disease right now, but the best drug is your own immune system. And the markers are very, very straightforward. We don't have to do fancy tests. Your optometrist can see those markers today in you.
You know, in my world, in the Alzheimer's world, for example, pharmacology gets you a few months, but nutrition, when applied earlier, could have gotten you decades. You know, we take diseases after they have already bloomed, you know, from decades and decades of lifestyle mismanagement. And then we assume that, you know, we should be able to intervene surgically or pharmacologically and fix it right there on the spot.
All right, so it's been 18 months of clean living, following the advice of Dr. Gelb and everyone I met along the way. Infrared saunas, cleaner food. It's been a journey. So now I'm here to get my follow-up blood test. I'm back at Carrie's office to see if my microaneurysm's improved and to get my blood test results.
Carrie. How you doing there?
How you doing?
Good, good. How's everything? You look good.
Yoga in.
Yeah, you look
working
good.
out a little bit.
Eating healthy.
Yeah.
Good, good, good. All right, let's go see.
Check it out.
This is when you came in and we looked at the back of your eye at the blood vessels, we found these little microaneurysms, these little pockets which are unusual in somebody your age. So we ran all these blood tests that it deals with the vascular system inflammation, and we found that the C-reactive protein was high and the fibrinogen was high. So now you've changed your lifestyle and you're here to get the results, and the results are great. I mean, the fibrinogen is totally normal, and C-reactive protein is very, very normal. There's no inflammation anymore, and it's fantastic. So by changing your lifestyle and doing the things that we recommended that you do, you've improved everything.
In 18 months, that's incredible. While I didn't have a life-threatening disease, I learned things could get very complicated quickly on the inside. By following Carrie's 10-point plan, which I had come to call Carriatrics, I was able to totally tame my inflammation and manage my IR, and thankfully avoid a helping handful of potential prescriptions.
Our culture gives us an image of what health is. And as you were saying, it basically means the absence of disease. And so many people kind of take this state that I would say is actually not healthy as the default state of human existence. Like, it's kind of normal to hurt a little bit all the time. It's kind of normal to feel like really tired all the time or kind of a little sick all the time. And we get so used to that. We get used to a feeling of underlying pain. It seems that we have an inevitable destiny when we reach 60, 70, 80 years old to be decrepit, to be uncomfortable. What can break that predisposition? What can break that tacit assumption that this is what life is going to be? One thing that can break it is that you meet somebody who violates that standard. You meet somebody who's 60, 70, 80 years old doing gymnastics or, you know, running 10 miles or like seemingly like healthier than you were when you were 30. And we don't realize how good, how healthy it's possible for a human to feel. Life is a transformative journey.
The reason the younger generation may not outlive their parents is because, number one, sugar, number two, sugar, And number 3, sedentary lifestyle.
Charles called diabetes and obesity the twin epidemics of our time. Carrie and his peers added myopia and Alzheimer's to that list. It seems that my generation and the ones to follow need to change our lifestyles, which are remarkably out of balance. As Charles said, life is a transformative journey, and we need to get into a whole new rhythm.
Like myself, many of our patients didn't know where their poor health came from. Looking back at the last 2 years of our journey with 20/20 hindsight, it is clear that our lifestyles and environment have contributed to the epic rise of diseases we see in our country. The root cause of many chronic illnesses lies within our depleted soil, food factories, and sedentary indoor lives. Desocialization and our disconnection from nature have added to the overall decline of health. The 10-point plan that took me half a lifetime to learn about was, for the most part, the daily lives of the centenarians. They opened their eyes again at 100 and showed us what the possibilities of true vitality and health look like. But we also learned that diseases are reversible, and by diagnosing them early, the possibilities of reversing them and experiencing maximum health are truly out of this world.
Hi, I'm Ashley. How does being in space for so long affect your body?
I actually put this up against my eye and plug this into a computer, and then I can look into the back of my eyeball, and there are expert doctors on the ground who are looking at my eyeball while I'm doing it.
And by looking at the eye in general, we're looking at components of the whole body, which may all tie into the astronaut's health, as well as give some idea of the health of their arteries.
While we explore the universe above us, we need to explore the universe within us. Science is a continuum of questions and answers, and we will continue to prove there is always a new frontier to wonder about. A distant flicker on the edge of cosmic farsightedness, or the curious blemish on the retina's rim that begs our nearsightedness. We are now learning the eye is the greatest observatory into the secrets of our hidden health.
The eye is the canary of the mind, and it's true. When you have an eye exam, someone looks through your pupils, you look into the back of the eye, you're not looking just into the back of the eye. We can see in your brain function that will go undetected, quite possibly for years, without any other clue that it's going on, that could lead to dysfunction, that could lead to blindness, that could lead to loss of life. Why would people take that chance?
So many of the things that we care about in modern medicine, the diseases that we have that are, lifespan diseases, it's your optometrist who's got the best view. And I really think that OD is the new GP, and the more that the optometry community starts to embrace that role and embody it, the healthier our society is actually going to be.
For me, the eye on the prize is paying attention to the optometrist, paying attention to your body.
The eye is the kingdom.
Our body is constantly healing itself on a deep level, on a moment-to-moment level. I see people reverse insulin resistance, reverse cardiovascular disease, reverse atherosclerosis. I see people reverse diabetes all the time. First of all, you have to stop doing whatever you were doing to end up in the situation you were in. And for most people, radical diet change is the #1 thing to drive that.
But at some point, if you want to be well, then you have to start incorporating sort of these natural rhythms of the body, including the circadian rhythms, including the sleep, including the fasting, as well as the feeding. I mean, these are all the things that we used to do when we used to listen to our bodies. Before light, there's artificial light, people would have to sleep because it's dark and you can't see a damn thing. So you go to sleep, right? So you get plenty of sleep, and that's just the way it was. The body knows best.
This boy best had a bad way to go. Look at this. Here, film that.
He lost it with his hat.
Thank you. Okay.
It's been a year since we've seen the centenarians, and we're going back to check on them. It had been almost a year since their surgeries, and I wanted to follow up with Pablo, Maria, and Pachito to see how they were doing. how their lives had changed now that they were able to see clearer.
You're very strong.
I rejoined Jorge, and our first stop was Pablo. Not only did he challenge me to an arm wrestle, he was going to make sure I left Costa Rica knowing how to chop wood. He was remarkable, and his vitality was more apparent than ever.
Hi, Maria.
Buenos días, señor.
Good to see you.
¿Cómo amaneció viejo?
Dr. Laporte confirmed what we had discussed earlier, that there were no signs of glaucoma or macular degeneration.
For that age, they are really good. They have no exudative maculopathy, and that's it. But no like hard escotomas in the center or anything. They are pretty good.
There wasn't even a trace of any cognitive impairment. They were all lucid, happy, and full of life. The one thing I noticed in all was their dignity and confidence was restored, as well as their ability to flirt. Maria was wrong. She wasn't too old for a boyfriend. And she certainly wasn't too old to show a little jealousy. Over the course of a year, our eyes were opened to how aging should look like, full of life, love, and happiness.
Yay!
Where is everybody?
This is our chance to take back our throne.
What's their problem? We're heart healthy, eye healthy, brain healthy? Fine, I'll show them what hormones are really all about. Enough with this fake nose and fake food. Time to get real and raw. Talk about fat, sick, and nearly dead. The sacred basket.
Dios mío, we gotta get out of here.
You're not going anywhere, fatty boy. Get in my belly!
We're all coming, Quetzalcoatl! Will everyone please open their eyes? Okay, on three. Uno, dos, tres!
You bow to no one.
Who's a guac star?
Baby, it's rock to rock.
Who's the new butter?
Who's the new mantequilla?
We are at a tipping point in health, as we have learned to move away from the wrong roads we were led down. While technology has created an imbalance in us, it has also made the invisible visible. We need to realign our lifestyles and reframe the optometrist in the starting lineup of primary care. Moving forward with 2020 foresight, we need to open our eyes in every way imaginable.
Give me resurrection, give me restraint, 'cause I've been gunning it to get there and then running away. Give me good intentions, even the score. Come on and give me lots of lip and let me hear you roar. Oh, 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 oh. Give me resurrection, don't disappear. No, I don't need another yes man. Show me some fear. Give me some elation, give me a ride. We'll be like people on vacation every day of our lives. Oh, 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 mess around, don't wanna mess around. Lord knows I messed around. Don't wanna mess around, don't wanna mess around, don't wanna mess around. Lord knows I messed around. Don't wanna mess up, don't wanna mess up. Now that I can see it, there's no way I'm gonna give it up. Give me resurrection, give me a chance. Come on and spin me like a record, make me wanna dance. I'll get you back, something right. I'll make you sing it out your window every night. It goes oh, 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 oh,
You haven't seen the last of me.
Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Fitting multifocal contact lenses presents a big opportunity to meet patient needs while growing your practice. Alcon is your partner not only with our innovative portfolio, but through e-learning. Learn to enhance your multifocal strategy today with the Alcon Experience Academy.
OIE Broadcasting is the emerging leader in social media. We use scientific entertainment to drive more patients into your office. Visit oiebroadcasting.com and sign up today.